And we are back with another episode of Liam Picks Fights. I'm very excited to bring you a special guest today. We've got Mr. Aaron Watershow on the show today. Cheers. I'm drinking my coffee. He's drinking the claws as usual.
Bro, you're always going with the coffee. I feel you. You tired all day or what's going on?
Oh, I have had a heck of a weekend, man. I been working in Ohio for the summer, coaching some wrestling and driving back and forth. I'm in the studio in New York. I drove all night, got a little bit of sleep, got back to look at those weigh-ins and broke my laptop. So I've been all over the freaking map today, man. But I got some notes down from the weigh-ins. I feel like I have a couple bets that I'm excited about, and then I've got some other fights that I still have some interest in potentially playing as we get a little closer here. So I reckon we should probably start off at the bottom of this main card, and we've got a welterweight fight, Matt Brown and Diego Lima. I got to say, I normally don't have the strongest thoughts and inclinations based on the weigh-in. That's normally not what sways my betting, but Matt Brown looked old. He looked very, very
He's a
old
dinosaur.
in the weigh-ins today. And granted, I don't say that he looked terrible physically. He had some musculature. He looked like he was training hard for the fight, but I have to say, just his face, he kind of looked weathered, and I was very concerned about that visual. I have to say, I did have a bet on Matt Brown against Carlos Condit, regrettably, his last time out. And that was when I washed my hands of the Matt Brown betting train, because if you're getting out wrestled by Carlos Condit, I feel like there's nothing to see here anymore. And granted, Matt Brown still has explosive offense. I think that any 41-year-old professional mixed martial artist with some of the most knockouts in UFC history, you could say that about. But I also think that he just doesn't have the durability to get into an exchange, even with somebody like Diego Lima, who kind of looked bricked up at weigh-ins. I was impressed by the physique of Diego Lima. And, granted, do the Limas always come out with a kind of low volume, disappointing, low output decision type performance? Yes. But I think that this is, I think it's the UFC trying to do Matt Brown a favor. I think in reality, it's a gift for Diego Lima getting Matt Brown on his way out. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, no, I feel that same way. I think UFC is trying to maybe get him a dub, but also I don't know, because sometimes they just like getting the old dudes out of there. So this is definitely going to be a tough fight for Matt Brown, just because, like you said, he's got the skills. Dude's got nasty elbows. He's good in the clinch. He's a good, well-rounded fighter because he's been doing it for so damn long. But I don't know. It's just a new age in the UFC, and I have no problem. I said on the last podcast we were on, I have no problem fading old dudes just because I don't love the price on Diego Lima here, so that's probably gonna sway me from not making a bet there. But I mean, I'll take a look at things like the under. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough because I think even Lima has a few durability issues himself, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not an old dude guy, man. I'll pass on the old dudes. They've been struggling lately, and I've been losing a lot of units on them. So I think the last one was who broke his arm? Jacare. After Jacare got his arm broken, bro, which was shocking as fuck. I was like, yeah, I'm going to stop betting on old dudes. I think that was the last straw for me. So I'm either fading them or passing. There's dog or pass, or there's fade the old dude or pass. And I'm leaning pass just because the price isn't great, but
I agree with you there. I think that I still might get involved small because I think that, you could probably put Diego Lima 2-1 here comfortably based on just the age difference. But I also think that because of Matt Brown's sort of killer be killed style, he's been finished, I want to say, like 13 times in professional mixed martial arts. I feel like inside the distance, maybe Diego Lima by knockout would be the play if I was going to try and shorten the price on Diego Lima. But again, because he's so low volume, I don't know that he's going to create a ton of striking exchanges. I just think that Matt Brown doesn't have cardio to go 15 minutes with anybody that has, damaging offense. And Carlos Condit is like clinging to a UFC career right now. Respect to the legend, but it barely just scraping by these wins over other guys who are, barely clinging to their UFC careers. So I feel like this is probably a buy low spot on Diego Lima. But I also feel like maybe it's just a pass fight.
Right. I don't love that money line
with a welterweight.
I don't love that
pass.
Price. Yeah, that's the thing. You're right.
Look
His
at
cardio kind of sucks.
The totals. I want to look at the totals.
I was just gonna ask you, what is it? Do you know what it is?
I just pulled up best fight odds.
Yeah.
It seems like under 2.5 is plus 112, under 1.5 plus 200. It seems like market wide is probably under 2.5. And if I could get plus money, I would consider it. That's just because I think Matt Brown is going to sell out for the finish early, and he's relying on that. So I might target that under 2.5 rounds if my books offer it at plus money. I will be taking a look at that. But I probably won't even go a full unit on that. Probably a little less. Just a small.
Yeah, you're right with Lima being low volume. He's like his brother. His brother was like very low volume guy. He's got spectacular knockouts, but he's also super low volume. And you see the highlights and him like whatever landing knees on Michael Venom Page and all that stuff, but you don't see like the rest of the fight where he's just fucking staring at the dude. So I think his brother fights in a similar fashion, but
reliable to back themselves onto the cage, man.
If I can get plus money on a fading old dude though, I think there's definitely some interest there, but maybe not a full unit, maybe just a little sprinkle, a little salt bay on that. So
hey, I never hate that. A little sprinkle never hurt nobody, as far as I'm concerned. All right, so if we're looking down, next we got a middleweight fight. I've actually seen people kind of all over the place on this one. I'll let you go first and lead. We got Wellington Turman and Bruno Silva. Wellington Turman kind of had the shaky performance against Andrew Sanchez, and then Bruno Silva doesn't really have a UFC career to look at. He sort of came in, went off with the PED suspension, but he does have other fights that you could find online. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Because his last fight was M1, I think, which I'm sure you could sauce over there. You could probably, they don't really care about your PED intake there, or it's probably a little more lax than USADA is. So it's been 2018 is the last time he fought. So I
want to say
kind of a while. That's tough for betting. I don't love having to guess like the progression that he's been on, right? Because especially coming off a suspension for PEDs, who knows what he's going to look like? It's usually not a great sign that he'll look any better.
Did you see the weign-in? He looked.
No, I didn't. Is he looking sussed?
He looked fairly bricked up. He was moving gingerly, I didn't think that he was like flying around the stage like full of energy, but I did think that he looked pretty jacked, and after he made it, he was like giving the like slick little smile. I think that this is a kind of fun one in my opinion. I feel like we could see
it's going to be a dope fight.
I think that Silva, on the one hand, he's won a couple big upsets in a row. That was the thing that really stood out to me. He's been over in Russia beating Russians, which is like not always looked upon kindly. I'm sure that they weren't happy with those results. And, I'm sure that if they were to be strict with one of the athletes on who was using performance-enhancing drugs, it would be the foreigner coming over, whereas the other guy would be
though. Who is it? Someone else.
Neto BJJ. Yes,
bro, he's
a savage. They're both looking huge. Very, very juicy.
So it's interesting. But no, you're right. I think, but the thing with Silva is he's a wild man, right? I don't know if you watch his last fight. He looks like an Avenger out there. He's jumping. I think his takedown wasn't like a double leg. It was just a straight up fucking spear. So he was looking like Ray Lewis out there. But it was tough. It was also interesting because I watched his last fight and work off his back. He didn't look great. They stood him up like a few times in the middle of the round. I'm not sure you're going to get that kind of leniency in the UFC, right?
I was going to say that is Russian MMA right there. They're like the Russian guys down.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. This might be another underlook for me. It seems like he's going to go for it. Definitely looks like the type of dude that's going to go for it in a small cage in Vegas. That's it's kind of intriguing to me. I don't know what. Let me check the odds on that. I'm sure it's got to be kind of juicy.
I think it's plus 105 for Wellington.
Oh, really?
Thurman, and then it is minus 125. I want to say for Silva. That was last I checked the line. Minus 120 is best market price on Bruno Silva. Plus 112 best market price on Wellington Turman according to Best Fight Odds.
Yeah, I mean he's super powerful, Bruno Silva. It's almost one you kind of want to get ended. Well,
I could say this though. Granted, the losses were a long time ago for Bruno Silva, but they were almost exclusively coming by submission. I don't think he's the most technical guy in the world. I think he's a big power threat. And so, granted, because we haven't seen him in a while, it's very plausible that he's made some improvements. But I also think that, Wellington Turman, I think he does have some grappling upside here. I think that it's not outside the realm of possibility that he could latch on another submission in this position. I think that he looked good. When I was looking at Wellington Turman on the scales today, I thought that he looked pretty impressive as well. He looked bricked up. Didn't look like he was carrying around a lot of extra weight.
Yoked, dude. Yeah, that dude is yoked.
And he looked like he was moving with a little bit more energy and vigor. So for whatever that's worth, I feel like he made weight more comfortably. And I think that Wellington Turman, he's got some grappling upside in the spot. The concern obviously is he's facing a guy who seems to have a lot of power. Granted, coming off the suspension, I think that's really what puts me off betting Silva in this spot. It's for me a wait and see.
Me too.
But I think that, at plus money, Wellington Turman is a little bit interesting to me. And I might look at the submission and the inside the distance props for Wellington Turman because I feel like Bruno Silva and big jacked up guys that want to come forward with big crazy offense, they're liable to gas, especially if they're being scrutinized by USADA a little bit more carefully.
I think that's a good live spot too. I think that might even be a better way to play it because he'll probably come out hot, right? He might win the first round. But I think you're right. If Turman survives the first round, I think the knockout probably becomes a little less likely. So that might be a good live spot to look at. Because I agree, Turman, like I said, I think when he got taken down, when Silva was in M1, when he got taken down and he was off his back, he couldn't get up. The only way he got up was because the ref let him up. So you might not get that same kind of deal in the UFC. Just depends on who your ref is. So I think that's a very good live spot, honestly. If Turman can withstand the first round, it was a little sketch. Sanchez, like not the power puncher at all. Dude's a wrestler, and he got knocked out by that guy. But how often do you get knocked? I mean, for like a young guy like that, decent prospect, how often do they get knocked out twice in a row?
I was going to say the same thing, man.
I feel like it doesn't happen that often.
The market tends to overreact, I feel like, to first round knockouts, 100%. Bad visual knockouts.
Yep.
But without like a long track record of just brutal knockouts, I would be a little bit more hesitant because we've seen so many guys come in with that narrative and survive with power punchers. And I think that, again, because Silva's got his own question marks, I think that we kind of make it a wash, and plus money would be what we would be chasing here. I think people actually flip this line. I think Wellington Turman opened minus 170 and has been bet all the way down. And so that's why I think there might be value on Wellington Turman now, whereas at opening price, maybe the value was on the other side. But I think that if you're getting plus money in this spot, I think it's a relatively 50-50 fight where either guy has a live path to victory. But I also, maybe it's my background. I tend to favor a guy with a grappling path as being a little bit more consistent and reliable because, I don't think that Turman is completely out of his depth on the feet. I think that he looks okay. I think his defense isn't as good as his offense, as is the case with almost every MMA fighter, and especially a young MMA fighter. So I think that, is he working on his defense in light of that result? I would imagine that he probably has refocused on that. And in addition, he's probably refocused on getting to grappling quickly. And I would think that in that, if he takes that approach into this matchup, we could see a first or second round submission for Wellington Turman.
I like that. I like that a lot. What are the odds on his submission prop?
Let's take a look.
Yeah, let's take a look. I probably should know this. Yeah, Turman by submission 425. That's pretty good, dude. I agree. Like, I think there's a good chance that he gasses. That
Turman ITD at plus 300. I like that even better. I like that even better.
Me too.
So,
that's a
dude,
good one.
I actually think I'm probably going to hop on that for
I'm gonna have to
probably a
add
half unit, maybe 0.6. Something like that.
Yeah,
I think that
I'm writing that down.
In fact, I was gonna say I should take out a notebook. I put that one down on paper. I want that for
Let's
later.
go.
All right. Next up, we're moving right along. We got a featherweight bout. This one I'm pretty interested in, man. I think that this one could be a lot of fun. We got Juicy J, Julian Erosa. I thought that he looked pretty sucked out, but pretty good. Like, looks physically in great shape for this fight, in my opinion. And then we got Sungwoo Choi. Comes out with the blonde hair. I don't know if you saw that.
Did he? No way.
Interesting.
I kind of love that. I might have to. That might sway me one way.
He looks like he has not 1 ounce of fat on his body. He had the box of shame come out 146 pounds even, posing with the Korean flag, all business. Looked really good on the scale today. And, Sungwoo Choi, I got to say, he has impressed me before. I have gone down with the ship with my boy Yusuf Zalal before. And I don't think I ended up betting him in the Choi fight, but I remember I was surprised that Choi beat him. And I think that Choi has improved his wrestling defense since he got to the UFC. I also think that, that doesn't mean he's just a lock to win this fight now. I think the line has switched on this fight as well, as far as I remember. Let me just double check that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep, he opened minus 130, and it's basically flipped completely. And, maybe that's fair. I think that, Choi obviously has pretty good striking. I don't think he's a tremendous power threat. I think that he's got, pretty good volume-based striking game. He can pressure somebody on the feet. His takedown defense is getting better. I don't know why that would necessarily make him like a lock to beat Juicy J, though. I think the guys that are going to have a ton of success are guys that can really sit down on a power shot and put him away. We saw somebody like Sean Woodson landed, almost at will on Juicy J, but because he didn't have a tremendous amount of power, Julian was in his face, throwing punches, landing punches. And I thought that, it goes down as a submission win. I thought he just outstruck Sean Woodson. At the end of the day, that was how he beat him. He just kept striking with him until Sean Woodson couldn't do it. And, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that we see Julian Erosa break down Choi with pressure, with volume, with a ton of activity. But is he going to be there to be nuked? He's going to be there to be nuked. Like he did get dropped like 10 seconds, 20 seconds before he finished Woodson in that fight. So he is always in range of a counter shot, which is dangerous, especially against somebody like Choi, who I do think picks his shots pretty well. I just don't know that given the level of competition, given what he's proven so far, that he should be that the line should be widening. Let's say I think minus 125 for Choi was like where I would stop the bleeding. I feel like further than that is getting a little disrespectful. So I'm considering getting involved small on the Erosa money line, or perhaps Erosa inside the distance, but I haven't made any moves on this one. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I was actually on Choi against Zalal, which was one of I think, how long ago was that? Was that like 6 months ago? That was my boy. I was but Zalal was short notice, right? I think he came in on like a
Yes,
week's notice.
every fight for Zalal is on short notice.
Yeah, he's missing short
one.
notice. But I mean, I think that's kind of a big deal.
That was February of 21, by the way. And
Another
February
thing,
of 21 was when Arosa beat Nate Landwehr.
Oh, it was the same card?
I'm not sure if it's the same card. I'm just looking through betmma.tips, and it just has the month and the year.
Yeah, I think it's really going to.
But I think it was the same card. Thinking back, I'm pretty sure it was the same card.
I think it's just going to come down to how each fighter kind of attacks the fight. Arosa in his last fight came out right, balls blazing. He was trying to get that kill, and he did, which was lucky. And that's another thing that we kind of go back to was like those early KOs. You kind of get a little bit of value when the last fighter came with an early KO, right? So Arosa, he ended it in like the first 20 seconds against Landwehr with like a sick highlight finish. That was probably on ESPN. So people, that can add a little value to or not value, but that could maybe overrate you a little bit. But yeah, I think this is, I would actually line this to be pretty even actually. Yeah. Like probably minus 110 each way. So I don't really have too much of a good read on this. It's tough because the last fight was played up against the cage, right? For Sangwoo, like I would say like 10 minutes of that fight was like more wrestling. I don't think you're going to see as much wrestling in this fight. I think it'll be like a stand-up striking battle. So I think it's, both of them are dangerous strikers to an extent. Arosa is kind of a tricky guy. Both of them are also long, so they'll both be in there. I think this will end up being a pretty good fight.
Fight doesn't go to decision at plus 105.
Bro, I love taking unders. Like I'll just sit around, and if I don't have to bet on a fight, I'll just toss on the under. So I get trapped into those. But
the overs have been killing it this year, but I feel like the unders have got to make a return.
I know.
Now, granted, we are no crowd as far as I'm aware for this show. So
right. Another thing,
I feel like no crowd is really decision.
Right, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I feel like some people are chasing bonuses, though. I feel like the way that Arosa came out last fight, he needed 50K. Maybe he wanted to, hit the strip or something, but he was definitely coming for that bonus. And I think another thing to take into account is Arosa's Vegas local, right? And I think Choi is coming all the way from Korea. And I know just throughout the year, recently at least, the Asian fighters, they've struggled. And I think a lot of it has to do with
I have been going down with that ship.
Yeah, bro, me too. And it's like fucking they have quite the route to get here. And then they have to I don't know how early they get here, but if they don't get here earlier enough, they're kind of fucked in terms of like their body clock and all that shit. So I don't think people pay attention to that a lot. So honestly, it's moving into the territory now since I have it, I said I have it pretty even. But with the way the line is moving, 150, I almost want to take a little poke at Arosa as well. I feel like we're agreeing on every fight, but I think that's especially if it gets a little more wider. I think the under's a good look here, just because I think both of them will, I think they're gonna go after it. I don't think we see the same type of fight that we saw like in the Zalal fight, and which was played up against the cage line. I think both of them are dangerous and powerful. So either the under, and if I were to pick a side for betting, I would definitely take our boy Arosa, Juicy J. Are you a Juicy J guy, by the way? The rapper? Have you ever heard Juicy J the rapper?
I know Juicy J the rapper.
Dude, he's the goat. Yeah.
Not bad. Haven't listened to him in a while, but I got some.
It's been like
if I heard it, I could get it back in an instant.
I feel like that has to be his walkout song. He has to pick it. He's got a lot of good songs to choose from.
I'd love to see it, man. I think next up, and you could tell me if you agree or disagree, I would certify this the low-key banger of the week. I think it's the best fight on the card. Marlon Vera, Davey Grant 2.
Rematch, dude. Rematch. I didn't realize it was a rematch.
Yes. And, man, I got to say, I went back. I watched the first fight. It's good fun. It's a Davey Grant win. Pretty clearly. He went into that fight as a minus 175 favorite. I want to say that it was 30-27s, 29-26 sort of deal across the board. Right. And I think that Davey Grant, he's got a lot to offer, man. I think that he is an underrated fighter because he's a little hittable. He gets overexcited sometimes in his fights. he has like a newfound love of striking that just has him hanging out in the pocket with crazy, power punchers, guys that are supposed to knock him out, and he's knocking them out. And I think part of the secret to his success is that he does what a lot of MMA fighters don't want to do, and he rips the body hard. He gets guys to address the fact that he's going low. He mixes up his offense, right? I don't think that Davy Grant is just a predictable 1-2 puncher like a lot of guys. He'll jump in and out of range with kicks as well, like a madman, and he fights like a madman. And I think that guys find it hard to deal with when they're in the fire. And I do think that we've seen Marlon Vera get overwhelmed by that, kind of pressure. And the Davy Grant fight the first time is a good example of it. Now, on the other hand, Marlon Vera is the younger guy, right? There was a big age gap the first time, but now the age gap is starting to get to a point where it really would tend to favor Marlon Vera. He's 28 years of age, would tend to be in his athletic prime, you would think. Davy Grant, 35, a little bit older, hasn't had as many fights in the UFC as Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera's been a lot more active than Davy Grant. But I think that Davy Grant hasn't been taking punishment for the most part. I think that's why he's been able to eat these shots, right? He hasn't been weathered by a long and storied career. He's had some injuries, granted, but he hasn't had all that much cage time. And now that he's starting to get some more cage time, he's accumulating wins, knockouts, knockdowns. I think that he has, everybody's talking about, Marlon Vera's got a grappling path here and he's got a striking path here and this and that. And all I would say is that's possible because he's made improvements, because he's the younger guy. But in the last fight, Davy Grant won all phases of the fight, in my opinion. He was out-grappling Marlon Vera. He was out-striking Marlon Vera. He was backing him up and controlling him against the fence. And I'm not sure why he can't do that. I think Davy Grant has improved as well. I think he's a better fighter now than he was when he beat Marlon pretty convincingly. I think everybody was gung-ho about Marlon last time when he was fighting Jose Aldo. Some would say the ghost of Jose Aldo, with all due respect to the legend, but I don't think he's quite looked the same in terms of his offense's volume and everything at the bantamweight class. However, I knew that Jose Aldo was going to have plus, I thought that he could have been minus 185, minus 200 in that spot because he has the striking to put off somebody like Chito Vera early. Now, granted, Chito made a comeback in the second round. I was impressed. And I think that it was vet savvy. Jose Aldo says, where can I win this fight? Take him down.
Yep.
Now, granted, who would have expected Jose Aldo could or would do that going in? Probably nobody. But who's to say that Davy Grant can't or wouldn't or couldn't do that? All I have to defer back to is Davy Grant has some submission liability. You can look at his record and see that. But when he fought him the first time, his grappling looked just fine to me. And I'm sure that he's been working that in the interim. He's been taking his career seriously. He does not need to fight. Davy Grant talks about this. He does not need to fight. He has a successful business. He just loves to do it.
Yeah.
And so you have a guy who could be doing anything and is choosing to do this. And on top of that, he has the confidence of saying, I am going in there against a guy I've already beaten. I know I could beat him. I feel like I like the plus 205 number that I got on Davy Grant. I know people got him at plus 250. God bless you. I got to get after these lines a little bit earlier.
I know, bro. Same.
I think market wide, I'd be surprised if you could find plus 205 at this point. Yep. Plus 184 is the best market price that I could find right now on Davy Grant, according to Best Fight Odds. So I think that, either way, I'm looking to snipe closing line value. Full disclosure, I've got 3 units on Davy Grant. I got 1 unit.
Here we go. Let's go.
I think it was 1.19 maybe tracked at plus 200. And then I saw it bounce to plus 205 and I said, got to have that. And I put another 2 units down. So I'm excited. I think that the line was a little crazy. I think Marlon opened up something like minus 325. That line got instantly bet down heavily. And, are we going to miss on the Davy Grant gravy train? Maybe the gravy train's over, but all I know is he's 3 for 3 as an underdog in his last 3 fights in the UFC. Overall in his career, he's been a profitable bet in the UFC. Overall in his career, he's been a profitable bet as an underdog. And for that reason alone, I'm willing to take a stab on him, and let's ride Davy Grant. I predicted on my Tapology next second round knockout. I feel like there's something in the water right now. Davy Grant. I know Marlon Vera's got crazy durability. It's not the most likely outcome. Davy Grant by decision's much more likely, but I'm going with my heart. I'm going with my gut. Davy Grant by knockout.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, if you're going to bet Grant, wouldn't you rather do it by decision plus 450? I feel like, I guess he could score a KO, but the first one went to decision, right? Or
yes, it did.
Decision.
I just think no two fights are the same. And Davy Grant, he could get dropped in this spot. I think he could drop Vera in this spot. We've seen Marlon was hurt before in fights. I think it was the Guido Canetti fight. He got hurt pretty bad. I don't think that Marlon's necessarily out of the woods. I really think that Davy Grant can hit and hurt anybody. Jonathan Martinez was minus 300 or whatever he was. Right. Everybody had the same conversation the last time. Now, granted, I would rate Chito Vera better than Jonathan Martinez pretty significantly. Definitely. But that's why I think that you could say Chito Vera is minus 125, minus 150 at most in this spot. But I think the minus 300, I just thought that was excessive based on what we know. So I'm all in. That's it. I don't care. I like Davy Grant, and I'm all in.
We finally disagree. This is the first time, or I guess minus 200 right now. I guess if it were, I wouldn't bet it right now. I think the odds are about right. I do think that Cheeto's made a lot of improvements. I think being 23, right? That age gap when you're like 22 to probably like 28 is when you're going to be making your most improvements, in my opinion. I think that's what you see a lot of times. And then you kind of hit a little plateau and then you get a little better. Maybe you do some steroids and then you get a little better. But I think that's an important thing to note here is that he was 23. So what you said, he's 28 now. I think this part of his career is where he probably can make a steeper improvement on his skills. I think he has, if he didn't get, let me see, against Song, right? Would you think he won that fight? Did you watch that Yadong fight? That was a pretty close fight.
I did watch that fight. I think that it's very close. I want to say that when I watched it live, I thought that Yadong won. And when I rewatched it, I thought that Chito Vera won. Take that for what it's worth.
Right.
And I didn't make money on that fight, I don't believe.
Right. I don't think I did either. My only concern with Grant is I think he's been dropped in his last 2 fights, right? And the timing of it in the Martin Day fight was very important because it was at the end of the round. So he could have gotten out there. I
think his recoverability was impressive.
For sure. It was.
He doesn't just
he won.
Cover up. He holds on to the guy.
Right.
He makes it very hard for people to throw the follow-up strikes that they need to get him out.
Yeah, he's very intelligent. And I think right now the line's probably about where I would put it. So I don't see any value either way. I don't think I would take it. Maybe I would take the under because I'm an under guy, but
I do think that that's very live. I think that it's not outside the realm of possibility that this is the time that he gets finished.
Kicks, right? And then
absolutely,
like I said,
he does have the long stance, and you see those leg kicks from Chito Vera. They could make a big difference, but I also think that that's what Chito throws at distance. Like leg kicks. Like he's not the biggest puncher. He likes to get in the clinch. He likes to hold on to people when he's going to strike. And I think that looking at the stats, a lot of the stats actually favor Davy Grant as well. That was the thing that I hadn't brought up, but he strikes at a higher clip. He throws more volume.
He
lands a little bit more. He gets landed on less.
He's a savage.
Now, that being said, fighting a lower level of competition, we can acknowledge that. But I would also say, I think the Jonathan Martinez fight was a reasonable step up. And I think that this is like a little bit of a step up, more of like a lateral step up, like from 16 to 20 in the division to like 10 to 15 in the division.
Right.
And I don't see why Davy Grant can't make that next step. He's a little bit old for the division, but I think that all the metrics that I'm seeing are pretty good. The getting knocked down, not so good. All the other metrics,
that's my only red flag, because you're right. He's skilled. He's smart. He's got a good fight IQ, like you said. He knows how to recover. He knows how to cover up. So I definitely don't hate on the shot here. And I think
63% striking defense.
Right. And I think
he's not getting hit by every strike.
I think the opening line was a for sure play, but right now I'm lazy. Right. I don't look at it. I think it's about right, but yeah, I can see this ending. But my only concern with the under is Vera's durability is pretty good. So I think it's telling that Aldo didn't want. I know he was probably tired, and that's the main reason that he wanted to grapple and try to hold like a backpack. But I think it's telling that he didn't stand up with Cheeto. Aldo didn't. So we'll see.
I also think that's because we're not dealing with the same Aldo. I think that Aldo at a certain point in his career probably could have done that. I just don't know that he could keep the same pace as Cheeto, who tends to speed up. Whereas Jose Aldo has always gradual slowdown.
He's good in round one. Yeah.
So I think that it's a good fight. I think it should be a lot of fun. I think the community's split both ways. I would say you're probably on the sharper side right now. I think Marlon Vera's probably got the sharper action, but I think that there's people out there with a hope and a dream like me.
Dude, Navy's been coming up. Some of these dogs are just coming up strong. Like Carlos Esparza, she's the epitome of a dog who just pays you out. So maybe this is maybe this is the male.
He's
Carlos
the epitome
Esparza.
of a dog that steals my money because I'm stupid.
I do that the same thing.
I went down with the ship with Yan Jianan.
I did too.
But speaking of people that might need a miracle to get a win, we look to the co-main event of the evening. We've got big ol' Alexei Olenek, and by big ol' I mean looking smaller and smaller by the day.
Dude, how do you look at weigh-ins? Bad.
I mean, he didn't look like anything. He was wearing like and what I mean is he was wearing like a t-shirt, he was wearing sweatpants, like he didn't take off his shirt, just showed up looking like an older dude, had a pretty bad haircut. I think he weighed 228 or something with all the clothes on, like way smaller. And
that's a classic.
I think that the wheels are definitely off the tracks for Alexei Olenek, but I also think if there's a fight he could win, it might be this one. And I know I'm going to sound crazy for saying that. I actually think Sergey Spivak, pretty decent heavyweight prospect, all things considered. But my problem with him is he's not comfortable striking on the feet. He will be having success. He'll be landing good shots. He'll be outstriking somebody like Tai Tuivasa or whoever it is. But he is insistent all the time on wrestling. And I think that against Marcin Tybura, that cost him. I think that his lack of wrestling defense was alarming in that fight. And I also thought that, it wasn't even technical deficiencies as much as unathleticism, just getting like knocked backwards off balance over your 2 feet, which didn't look very pro athlete to me. Now, that being said, there's a few fights back. Marcin is a big guy. Marcin has been bullying around other heavyweights. He's got some experience and things. Sergey's a young guy in that fight. I think that he should win. He should knock out Alexei Olenek. But if he is going to be consistently grappling him and wrestling him and trying to take him down, like I fear that he might, then I am less confident in his ability to win. Chris Daukaus, I was all in on 3 units at my split between minus 180 and minus 160 because I was like, you guys are crazy. He has fast hands. He is not going to engage at all in the grappling, and he is going to knock him out quick. That being said, we've got a different guy here. This isn't a guy who wants to stand there and box with fast hands. This is a guy who has some power, has some decent enough striking, but doesn't want to use it, wants to engage in the grappling. And if you're going to give Alexei Olenek his only path to victory, which includes getting mounted to beat, like he will concede the mount to beat you. So I think that we have a green enough fighter on the other side that I have no interest in backing him at this kind of chalk. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, no, I actually think my punt play of the day is Sergey Spivak by submission, just because I think I look at the price.
Hot take.
It's like plus
like
2,000 because, he's, like you said, he's going to be entering into the submission realm.
I think he's got 5 pro submissions. So
I was looking. He's got quite a bit actually. Or I don't know if it's 5, but he like you said, he goes for it. He likes to grapple. Yeah. I think the most likely way he gets it is he stuns Olenek, right? Or maybe he's in mount, getting Ezekiel gets out of it. Right. That's what I'm saying. And that's the thing. That's the reason. I think maybe he won't, since he has so many submissions on his record, that maybe if he's in a position where he stuns him, he'll just jump for like a rear naked choke or a guillotine or something like that. Alexei strikes me as the type of dude that would just like go out or let his arm break, but this might be just Jacare 2.0. So I don't think he's ever been submitted before, and I think that's why it's plus 2,000. But I think
just like Jacare, yeah. I think
it's just Jacare 2.0, bro. Yeah. So I'm just gonna Salt Bay it.
Now that being said, Andre Muniz, much better grappler than Sergey Spivak. That might be the only difference. Now, 1,000%. That being said, how good of a grappler do you need to be in the heavyweight class? I do think Alexei's tricky, man. I think that it would be tough to submit, but I also think the visuals of him laying down in between rounds, being completely spent after 4 minutes.
He goes for it.
I think that it's going to be very tough for Alexei to win this fight, but given what I've seen from Sergey, have fun, gentlemen. If anything, I would look at maybe the under. If it's
a fun fight?
Is it 1.5 or 2.5?
It's gotta be 1.5, right? If it's 2.5, I'm all over that. Because I feel like Alexei
under 2.5 is minus 380.
Yeah, I was gonna say
under 1.5 is minus 150. Although, man,
I think that's
I'm actually not interested in playing it at minus 150, and I can tell you why. It's because you've got diametrically opposing outcomes. Alexei Olenek, it's always the under. And then on the other side, Sergey Spivak, it's always the over. So I think that Sergey Spivak, because he's such a big favorite, I would acknowledge that and just, all right, fine. You guys got it. If anything, I would actually look at the over at this price. I would be intrigued by the over and think that
maybe they get into grappling
What?
situations.
It's not enough. It's not enough.
What is it?
Plus 140 is the best I could see market wide for over 1.5.
1.5. Yeah, it's just tough to rely on someone like Alexei's gonna go for it. He might die at the fucking buzzer though.
Olenek having no cardio is, for me, I would want like plus 175 or
no
more.
cardio, and he goes for it. So it's interesting. That's why I think
dangerous combination.
A little Salt Bay on that plus 2,000 submission prop. You never know.
Absolutely.
I've seen crazier things, but
I'm with it.
Yeah, at least he knows how to rear naked choke, right? Most of these heavyweights don't know how to do that.
True that. And I just think the other thing is, man, when you look at Olenek, every fight now, he's getting knocked out. In addition, who's he beating? Maurice Green?
Mm-hmm.
Mo Green in the second round?
He doesn't know rear naked choke.
Dude, it was tough, man. I went back and rewatched, and I was like, I love Alexei Olenek and everything he represents.
Me too.
I wish
I love him.
that he was going to get one more win.
Love that.
I think it's going to be so tough, given how frail and fragile he is these days. Can't really take hard shots, and people are talking about these are all heavy punchers and heavy hitters, and I'm like, yeah, but they're hitting him once.
Right.
They're hitting him with one shot, like 12 seconds in, and it's all over. Or, in the case of Derek Lewis, the fight's not going so good for Derek, but he lands, I want to say, like 8 convincing shots. That was all he needed. It's like if you only need to land a couple of big shots, Sergey Spivak could do that by accident as long as he doesn't get himself submitted. Because he does flail those overhand rights. Like, I think he kind of throws with power. He's got an uppercut that's powerful. He's knocked out 100%. More than one guy with head kicks, I think. Like, Spivak's got some upside, man.
He's the definition of a vet, and he's a legend, and I love him, and I hope he wins.
Dude, I believe he has more fights than any other fighter he's got in the UFC today. Like, more professional MMA bouts.
Yeah, 100%.
How many beverages are we on today?
Dude, just two right now.
Heck yeah, dude. On to the main event of the evening. I'm gonna pass the floor to you. We got Dan Ige. We got the Korean Zombie. What do you got?
Okay, so I brought these seltzers, right? I got the Hawaiian seltzers going for a reason, because I think I told you this last time. I'm from Hawaii, so I'm a little biased here, honestly. I've read like the narratives going around with Korean Zombie in his last fight where he lost, he got depressed, his wife wanted him to retire. I think he gained 40 pounds, which I respect fully. I wish I could do that.
And then lose it all again.
Which is kind of wild. But yeah, honestly, if I looking at this, taking away all that, I think like skills wise, I think this is lined perfectly. I think it's a 50-50 fight. If you look at Korean Zombie, he lost his last fight, yes. And people were saying, he didn't look like himself. He looks a little sleepy, but I mean, part of the reason that he looked a little sleepy, not out of himself, is because it was Fight Island, and I think they were fucking fighting at like 3 a.m., right? So, I mean, that you got to have to take that into account. Ortega's good, and he landed a couple of those back elbows, and that seems to be his menace there, is that he always gets hit with those back elbows, even from Yair, and he was beating Yair, so he was 10 seconds away from getting the dub. I think people seem to be overrating his last performance a little bit. I think this is a much more even fight than I see a lot of people on Ige, and I understand that. And I'm not gonna bet on this fight. I'm gonna be cheering for Dan, but I think it's a lot closer than a lot of people think. If you look at the people that Korean Zombies beat, he's taken out some really good guys, and I don't know. I think he's a very well-rounded fighter. I think this is a good test for Dan. If he gets past him, I think he's definitely at the next level. But yeah, I think this is pretty even, and I think 50-50. So that's what the odds are right now.
I just got so distracted by the fact that you must have had a wager on Mr. Gleison Tebow last night.
I did, dude.
Rory McDonald.
My boy.
Controversial split.
Did you watch that? Yeah.
I did not watch it. I got the report back that my 5.4 unit bet on Alexei Konchenko had went to the pooper, and dude, I was very, very disappointed.
PFL, I think I'm 0 for 7 on PFL before that that lucky decision that I got, because it definitely was it felt a little rigged, because that first round is the one they gave him. I don't know. You should go back and watch it. It was.
I'm definitely gonna go back and rewatch. But I will say this: how many times have we been robbed? How many times have we been done wrong?
I was like, this is payback.
Good guys versus the bookies. That was
payback all at once.
They hung out the plus 650. That's their fault. They have to live with that, not you.
My thing was, have you been watching PFL?
Rory? I have been, yeah, very entertaining. I just couldn't watch the last one. I was driving.
The way the playoffs work, Rory could have went in there, just forfeited, or just threw the fight in the first round, and he would have eliminated either Ray or that Magomed guy, who might be favorites over Rory, right? And he was a minus 1,000 versus Tebow. And if he lost, he would have fought Tebow again. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to sprinkle this. I mean, he probably won't do it, but he should fucking do it. You just tap out in the first round for no reason, and then you get to fight Tebow again to go to the finals. So
that's funny.
I don't know. The way PFL is set up, they gotta fucking fix their shit, because that didn't make any sense to me. Because they even announced it. They're like, yeah, if Rory loses in the first or second round, he gets to fight Tebow again. I was like, dude, I don't know if he knew or I'm sure there's some sort of something in the contract, but he lost anyway, so he might as well have, because he could have knocked out Magomed or Cooper. So I think it would have been Magomed last night. So yeah, it was an interesting. PFL's got to get their shit together.
Are you familiar with
regular season?
Are you familiar with Verdict MMA?
Yeah,
I think they said it was the biggest like point differential between
100%.
like the most inaccurate point differential of any decision ever recorded on Verdict. It was like
Doesn't surprise
2
me.
full points of inaccuracy. It was like 29-27 on the app or something.
Unreal.
And then, I mean, just it's the it's a danger of betting on the sport, man. We always got to be cognizant of the fact that, if you're relying on a fighter that can only win on the scorecards, you've got to just go in weary because I've had a string of bad luck losing these split decisions. And so, it gives you a reason to think, does the guy have finishing upside? Does he have finishing potential? If so, that might make me more inclined to bet on them moving forward. But to go back to where we were and to address what you had said about the main event for UFC Vegas 29, it's a great fight, man. I think that this featherweight division is a hell of a division, man. I think the players that we've got on the board right now are a lot of fun. I'm so sad to see that Max Holloway fight got canceled.
I know.
I hope that they can reschedule Yair with somebody else and get the division rocking and rolling, because there's a lot of great fights and a lot of great names there. But in this fight in particular, man, I got to just go full disclosure. I have 10 reasons I shouldn't bet on this fight. Number one, I have been on a cold streak of betting UFC main events, including Marvin Vettori. You look at the rest of the card, I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. The first 6 fights of the night, I'm doing excellent.
Mm-hmm.
The main event, I am just burning money in my money burning machine, betting main events. And in addition, right, last fight out, 5 units, Korean Zombie, head pump. It was a terrible look. It was a bad bet. It was one of the bigger bets I had placed at the time. And, I was taken aback by the performance. I was surprised by what we saw from Brian Ortega. I was expecting what we see, pretty often from guys who lose a title fight in the UFC, which is they come back and kind of look like shit. Because it's hard to get up for another fight like a title fight when it's not a title fight and it's some other guy lower on the card again, and you're back to building back up from square one. Granted, Brian Ortega did everything right, made all the right adjustments, looked fantastic in that fight, hurt him early. So I think that changed the dynamic of the fight as well. And I'm not sure exactly how much we could take from that. That being said, you look at the body of work from Dan Ige. He's been fighting consistently. He's been getting into the octagon. He's been fighting the best guys in the division now. And he hasn't been fighting the old names of the division, like you see from the Korean Zombie. The wins, it's a Frankie Edgar win. It's the fights that we've been seeing from Korean Zombie, the Hanato Moicano win. How well did that age? Right. Before that, it was Dennis Bermudez, who's retired long since. I think that we haven't been seeing Zombie win down the stretch, in part because of IQ issues, in part because of a lack of, a clear minute winning strategy over time. I think that in some ways the game has passed him by a bit. I think we used to see him being a very dynamic finisher, and we still have seen him get some dynamic first round finishes, but he hasn't won a fight outside of that first round space in a while. On the other side, right, we got Dan Ige. Again, full disclosure, another reason I shouldn't bet on this. I had Gavin Tucker last fight out. I had 1 unit on Gavin Tucker. That is the fastest I have ever lost a bet in my life.
Had Dan there because obviously Homer, but it was the greatest win ever. I love that shit.
Dude, all I have to say is he promised before the fight, I want a clean, precise kill. And he went out there and he just delivered it. He was like, Dana White, I said, here's what I said. Signed, sealed, delivered. I was like, what else can I say?
Yep,
I can't be mad. I can't be bitter. Just got to take that one on the chin and say, maybe I'm underrating this man, Dan Ige. So I go back, I dig deeper into the tape on this man. I was impressed by what I saw. Here's an example of what I mean. When I see he gets hurt to the body against Edson, bad.
Yep.
Pulls guard, does the right things, composes himself, gets back up. That's clever. That's good fighting. That's how you survive when you get hurt. There's a reason Dan Ige hasn't been finished. It's not because he's the world's toughest guy. He is a very tough guy. It's also because he's crafty. He's clever. He doesn't just, when he's hurt, he ties up. He puts you against the cage. He goes for a takedown. He doesn't stand at range getting picked apart and getting hurt. The only fight where we kind of saw that is the Kattar fight down the stretch. And I think that was a fight where he was in there with a better guy, a guy who can just box better for longer, who can make more clever reads than him down the stretch. I think Dan Ige is a heart fighter. I think he's a hustle fighter. I think he's a workhorse fighter, more than a technical fighter. He's got good technique. He's a skilled, clever guy, but he's not the most skilled and clever guy. He's not winning these fights on skills and cleverness. He's winning it on dogged determination, guts, heart.
He's a beast.
And hustle. And I think in addition, when you see the age, when you see the fact that he is competing in these 5-round fights, going the full distance, when you see that, he's winning decisions, split decisions, close decisions, eking them out over tough guys, over guys that are supposed to beat him. Look at the Korean Zombie. It's kind of funny. He's got like this disparity in odds range, where it's like, he's like minus 300 here. He's minus 185 here, whatever. Dan Ige has been in a lot of close fights, a lot of fights that are like minus 100 something. And he's just finding these ways to win fights that are tough. And I think that right now, who can win more matchups in the UFC top 15? It might be Dan Ige. I keep wanting to think, it's not, there's something I'm missing, it's all going to fall off the wheels. But then the more I keep digging into what I see from him, I'm like, no, he's actually a pretty impressive guy. I think Dan Ige, I think right now has a brighter future in the featherweight division. Am I interested to see what Fight Ready can do with Korean Zombie? Yes. I think that Fight Ready is an excellent gym. Eric Anders delivered for me from Fight Ready last week. I was very happy. 3 units there.
Made that way harder than it needed to be.
Hey, that's all right. We'll take it however it comes, man.
Yeah,
and
100%.
I think that, Eric Anders loses that fight prior to coming to Fight Ready.
Oh,
we've seen examples of it. We've seen examples of it. So I think, am I banking everything on, Dan Ige in the spot? No. Like I said, I probably should just stay off this completely. But I do have a feeling that, Korean Zombie's been getting hurt, which is a concern for me. In order for him to be successful in his style, he's kind of got to hang his chin out there a little bit and be a target. And I don't know that he can react the same way. Granted, I've been having a little bit of problems making these reads on guys in their mid-30s to decide whether or not, they're a little bit past it. But, here's what I'd say. Do I expect a better Korean Zombie than we saw in the last fight? Yes. Do I think that he should be, a plus 150 or wider underdog? No. But do I think that Dan Ige is the deserving favorite at this point in their UFC tenures? He just may be, based on what we've seen. Granted, Korean Zombie, the loss to Brian Ortega, I don't think that that's that much of an indictment, but I also think we have to see more from Brian Ortega to know. The only data point we have on Brian Ortega is that he beat the shit out of Zombie. But if he goes out there and gets, walloped by Volkanovski, maybe we reevaluate how that looks. Now, granted, I don't necessarily expect that. I thought that there was real concrete improvements in that fight from Brian Ortega. But I also thought that, Korean Zombie never got started. And if he doesn't get started early, the evidence shows that he's going to lose. So I think that Dan Ige has more paths to win this fight. I think that it could be very competitive early, but I don't think that Korean Zombie hits the body enough. I think that that's where you want to hurt somebody like Dan Ige. I think that's where you have to attack somebody who's got just crazy heart and durability. You know, it's infrequently we've seen Ige rocked with strikes to the chin. So I think that, you know, Zombie might have something for him. You know, he's still got fast hands. Maybe he can mix in the kicks and make it interesting. But I kind of think that Dan Ige will be taking over this fight down the stretch. And, you know, I think that if it goes to the cards, Dan Ige is the winner. And I think that Dan Ige is live in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round to find a finish. I think Korean Zombie and Ige are both live in the first 2 rounds to some extent, because I think, you know, it might be pretty voluminous exchanges if the Zombie is trying to press his early advantage. But I also think that Zombie's kind of relying on being a counter striker. And I think that if Ige can use some feints, some timing, granted, a lot of times he's just a hard-nosed son of a gun. He's just going to set down and try and hit you as hard as he can. I think that could get him hurt in this spot. But I think that his coaching situation, I like Eric Nixick. I think that they do a pretty good job of preparing their fighters as well. And, you know, I think that they're working with a guy who's got a lot of physical upside, who's younger, who's really hungry, who still wants it with every fiber of his being. I think that Dan Ige is a dog. He reminds me of Marvin Vettori in a way. Hopefully he won't do nothing in a title fight and make me look like an asshole. But I think that this should be a fun fight. I think that Dan Ige is going to be my side, my pick. I think I'm ultimately going to stay away from a betting perspective, but fight to go to decision.
What do we got? Both these are super tough.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. It's minus 115. So yeah, I'll probably just pass entirely.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, because Korean Zombie, well, he's getting dropped by like back elbows and shit, right? Like anyone that gets hit with like back elbow is probably gonna go down because they don't see it. That shit he got hit by Yair, and that shit he got hit by Ortega. Like once they landed those back elbows, which I don't think Dan has up his sleeve, unfortunately. But you're right. No, I totally agree with your assessment. I think the younger, hungrier fighter should be the favorite here. But I also think that, you know, given the circumstances of the last fight, given where it was, given what time of the night it took place, that, you know, I'm not ready to give up on Korean Zombie just yet, but definitely some red flags, mental issues. His wife wants him to retire. He gained 40 pounds, which is impressive. So
I feel like I'm almost obligated to place a bet on Korean Zombie now as he hits plus 105 after going 5 units at minus 185.
If it keeps going, I might think about it, but usually I don't bet against Hawaiians.
I just can't, man. I feel like, you know, am I going to look back in retrospect and be sad if Korean Zombie works him like a part-time job because of his experience and just looks like the craftier striker? You know, that wouldn't outright surprise me, but I think the smart and responsible thing is to let the other bettors handle this main 100%. Event.
I think this is just going to be one where if it goes to decision, like Twitter's going to be an uproar, no matter who wins, that it was a robbery. So it's going to be a close fight. I think the line's pretty sharp. So I'd need a little bit more to make a bet, and right now I think it's about right. So
yep. If late action comes back on Korean Zombie, there's a ever so slight chance.
Right. I think they did a good job.
Plus money, I'm definitely going to take a small shot, but I think that Ige, if he gets back minus 105, minus 110, I would consider like a half unit again, just because I do like his upside in the spot, especially over the distance. But I think that at the current price, I'm gonna sit back and enjoy, man.
I'm a passer. This is gonna be a dope fight, 100% though.
Absolutely, I think it's
gonna be fun watch. But
now the last question I got for you, man. This is kind of a bottom of the barrel type card. We could all grant that, no problem there. I'm here for every one of these UFC cards, whether they're good or not.
Same.
But I would say I do have a little bit more action on this preliminary card. Is there any action that you took from the prelims that you're interested in? I know that the fight that you had mentioned before the stream was this Kamer fight. What do you got going on?
I think I do. I like Kamer in the distance there. I think that's I just don't see a lot from Negramanu. It just doesn't look like he's UFC ready. He got rocked in his last fight. I don't know how he survived that, but he just, he's the type of fighter that's, if you look at his record, he's only fought dudes that are like less than 500. I think he's from Romania, which doesn't have the strongest MMA scene. I just think Kamer coming off that L, against Thick Willie, that it's he just got a little sun there. He just got put in his place by a bigger dude. But I think this is a good spot for a dude that trains with, Stipe and those dudes over in, you said you train over in Ohio. Those dudes are tough. So
man,
I think this is a good spot for him.
Style.
Did you?
I trained at the same gym.
Bro, those guys
are not striking. I wasn't striking with those guys. I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression, but I trained MMA grappling over there. As well as some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Right. Granted, I was in the amateur classes, not the pro classes. But yeah, I'm familiar. I know Alexa Kamer in part because of those reasons. Like I've been familiar with his fighting and his work. And, without being a jerk, I would say that I was very, very unimpressed by that William Knight fight. I thought that Kamer looked green as all hell. I thought that he looked really like very questionable in terms of his wrestling ability. I thought he looked very questionable in terms of his fight IQ. I thought that he was pushing the clinch exchanges needlessly at certain points, refusing to disengage from them. Trying to out wrestle him on the ground and giving up bad positions. And in every position where he was flat on his back, he was virtually stuck there with no like semblance of a clue of how to get out. Like, yeah, I was like, do you drill hip escapes? Do you because he was just laying flat on his back or like trying to hold on. And I was really appalled by that performance because I went back and I didn't remember all of his fights, but I think that, he's a work in progress, certainly. How long ago was that fight, man? Probably not long enough.
I don't think it was that long ago. Thick Willie, though, that's the GOAT.
Dude, Thick Willie.
He probably just got a little whiff of that dude and was like, all right, I'm out of this. Yeah, I don't know how long ago it was, but
oh, here we go. September of 2020. All right, so he's had about 9 months. Hopefully he's done some work. But dude, I mean, the Justin Ledet fight,
right. I was at that
Justin Ledet. Oh, really?
Yeah, the McGregor fight, that was dope.
Dude, unreal. God bless you, man. That's so awesome. I was just like, I wasn't impressed by that fight either. Very competitive with a guy who's not UFC level in my view. And then on top of that, his win on the Contender Series was Fabio Chiron.
Right. Yeah, I would honestly say Fabio's better than, I don't know, this Negromanu guy just.
I know nothing about it. I will say that I didn't even watch Negromanu's tape, and I am tempted to bet him at plus 205.
He gets rocked a little bit, but I just if you look at his record.
That's the guy I got to watch tape on, man. I broke my laptop before I could get it.
look at the dudes he's fought. Like he's got some dubs on like the Romanian scene, but it's against dudes who are 10-13, 2-15, 7-5. He won up against Safarov.
He's been gone for a while. I think.
He has been. Yeah, you're
dude. Right. Think about it like this, man. You remember when what's the guy's name? Robert Whittaker's teammate. Who the hell is the guy? Jeez Louise. Not that great. Got absolutely netted by Abdul Razak Al Hassan.
His BJJ guy, right? He won, didn't he?
Yes, exactly. He won his next fight in the UFC when everybody thought he was going to lose again.
Jacob
Malkoun.
Yes, we got it. We figured it out.
And so Jacob Malkoun, I think, is a fine example, right? Guys see you get knocked out one time in the UFC against somebody that they don't rate highly, like Abdul Razak Al Hassan, who at that point, people had seen him fall apart a few times. So they're like, all right, we're out on this guy.
He was the former Death Touch. He was the former Chaos.
The artist formerly known as Death Touch.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know, man. I just think there's so many red flags when I'm looking at the side for freaking Kamer that Negromanu having 2 years away. I feel like
That's a good point.
People always
I don't hate
assume that that's going to make them worse. I assume that he looked so bad against Safarov that the UFC was like, yo, dude, don't come back for a while. Do some training, get better. And I haven't looked deeply into his footage. So again, that's why I don't have a bet active yet. But just on principle alone, seeing somebody minus 240 who has like not great finishing skills, in my opinion, like marginal finishing skills, and then like not the highest fight IQ, and then not the most athletic upside. Granted, Negumarianu did not look great on the scale. I didn't think like he doesn't look crazy athletic or anything. He looked a little.
He's a little flabby, honestly.
Yeah. He looks a little, a little thick around the waist, I would say. He had the abs and everything, but I thought that he had more fat on him than any other fighter. That's what I would say. I thought he was the fattiest fighter on stage.
Handle guy.
But if he's going to come out and grapple, if he's going to come out and wrestle,
on Tapology, they say he's a wrestler. So
dude, all I would say is if you have somebody that's intentional about wanting to wrestle and a guy who stinks at defending takedowns, like Alexa Kamer showed no underhook ability whatsoever. He was like overhooks and frame off the face. This. Mm-hmm. That's how he defended every takedown, and that's why he was getting thrown all over the place. I was like,
right.
I think that at plus 205, if you have somebody that's even a committed wrestler with less than stellar takedown ability, they might just grind the person into the cage for a while and make it an ugly, scrappy, split decision type fight. Alexa Kamer, again, close decision with Justin Ledet. I'm not saying Negumarianu is a stud. I'm saying is he so much worse than Justin Ledet that he shouldn't be a pick'em range type opponent? And maybe he shouldn't. But I think with 2 years away, without evidence to say that he's still as bad as he was against Safarov, I don't know, man.
That's a good point. There's a lot of people on this card that haven't fought in like years. So
exactly,
it's tough,
dude.
Right?
Rick Glenn, it's like 3 years.
Like who knows what he looks like? He's at a new gym. Like you can probably think he might have a whole new game plan, a whole new style. Who knows?
I can tell you, Neto BJJ.
Yeah,
big thick boy on the scales today. Bro, he was looking very, very good, and I did not think
those guys are eating some after practice.
I didn't see the same, thickness out of Rick Glenn. Honestly, I thought he was moving a little gingerly and whatever. And this is a fight up a weight class, compared to where he was fighting. From what I've heard, he's been working like a real job, not training full time. And I think Costco, that's a recipe for disaster. No, I think he used to work at Costco. Now he has like a real like trade job that he does. I think he's like a plumber, like full time. I was like, yeah, that sounds like a really bad recipe.
Sounds like he needs a check is what it sounds like.
Well, I honestly think it's probably for the thrill, man. If you were a plumber after you were a fighter, you'd probably want to be a fighter more too. Yeah, and I say that with all due respect.
Back in the ring.
It's a high like no other, getting your hand raised in any kind of combat sport as far as I'm concerned. And I think, I think Joaquim Silva is a more natural 155. I think that Rick Glenn at 145 was able to press some natural advantages, and I don't know that he's going to be able to do that here. And so
that's my other bet. I love Silva there.
Oh, you do? Nice. Yeah, I think that I haven't gotten in yet. I want to go back and just rewatch a little bit of tape because I know he won the fight against Felder's old teammate that loses a lot, got knocked out by Charles Oliveira, Jared Gordon.
Yeah, that's a big win.
Yeah, it was. But I heard that he was losing that fight for a couple rounds. So I do want to look and revisit the tape, get it a little fresher in my mind. I didn't get to review tape on everybody on this card. I have my notes from past fights and whatever, and that's what I was more relying on. But I want to just refresh what he looks like. But I think that if he can crack in exchanges, Rick Glenn, he's obviously shown durability in the past, but I think, if you're not a full-time fighter
and you're moving up.
Yeah, I think money line Neto BJJ is something I might get involved in as well.
Yeah.
I gotta say though, the fight that I have the most action on this card. Care to take a guess?
Definitely one of the chick fights, right?
Oh, you
No?
betcha, dude. You betcha.
Is it on the Jandaroba fight
It is
or the
not.
other
It's
one?
the other one.
O'Neal fight?
It's
Who do
on
you
the
got?
O'Neal
I'm
fight.
actually pretty intrigued by that one.
Well, how about this? I'm gonna turn it over to you first. Who do you got?
Okay. I have O'Neal here. I think
Ooh, okay.
I think
We're gonna have some more disagreement. Cheers to that.
I think yeah, cheers to that. Let's go. I was leaning Procopio at first, and I think she's all right, but I just think there's a little bit of physicality here that O'Neal will be able to employ. I know strength and strength and athleticism goes a long way, and especially more so in the women's division than it does. It definitely goes a long way for men, but the thing that pushed me towards O'Neal is I think she's just a little more athletic, a little stronger. She's pretty relentless. I don't think her striking is great at all, but I think they're both going to try and go for the takedown. I kind of like the under here just because it's kind of a juice, not juicy, but it's kind of a nice.
They always
price.
juice the women's. They always juice the women's over.
This feels to me like it's like an armbar from guard situation. They're definitely it's going to be a ton of scrambles. When I look at O'Neal, you know, honestly, when she's on the ground, there's a ton of she leaves a ton of space, right? I don't know if you watch any of her fights, but she's not as tight as Procopio.
I did.
Procopio almost got armbarred by Molly. I was like, okay, I like Procopio. I saw she almost got armbarred by Molly McCann, and I was like, all right, I can't bet on this girl. That's why I think there might be a situation where, you know,
O'Neal catches her in transition.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, honestly, O'Neal didn't look like she had too much finishing ability in her last fight. I feel like she was in a lot of good positions where she could have, you know, ended the fight against Dobson. I think she had her back a few times, but she goes for it, right? She's going for damage at all times. So I kind of like that. I think that looks good in the judges' eyes. I think skill for skill, Procopio is probably better, but I think when I add in the athleticism and the strength, I think she's a little stronger, and I think she might be able to squeak it out. But honestly, without seeing either of them, you don't really see off their back, right? So it's going to be interesting. That's why I think if I were to bet on that fight, I would bet the under. Like I've said that 1,000 times, but I think there's a good chance there's a finish, like a classic women's MMA armbar from guard, random, or like O'Neal. Like there's in her last fight against Dobson, she had some good ground and pound going where, depending on who the ref was, I mean, a ref would have stopped that. Just, you know, if you have a ref that will let it go on further, then, you know, maybe I think she did have one last time, but, you know, some people would just stop that fight. But yeah, that's how I feel about that fight.
I think that because we have a card where we've got a lot of people that are older, we got a lot of people that are coming off of a big layoff. We got a lot of people that are fighting at an age gap. Got a lot of people that are fighting somebody with a completely different style than they have. I think that that's the kind of card that lends itself towards finishes. A lower level MMA card like we've got is the one that tends itself towards finishes. And so I do think that the under could come back roaring in. I think we got a lot of divisions where guys get after it and scrap, welterweight, featherweight fights. You know, we've got people with finishing upside. And then I think in terms of the ladies fights, you know, we've got a bunch of girls that are capable of getting finishes. You know, I think the Murata and Jandiroba fight, maybe a little less likely that we see a finish. Still possible though. I think, you know, both of those girls have some route to a finish. I think Jandiroba probably a little bit more likely to find a submission there. Whereas you could see, you know, maybe a decision victory on the other side.
Right.
But what I would say is that my Procopio bet is large, 5.4 units at minus 135. And I went pretty deep on this one. I like Laura Procopio in this spot. I was so impressed when she made her UFC debut. She fought Carol Rosa. That was a fight at 135 pounds. She was clearly outsized going into the fight. And
Rosa's a beast.
She fought very well. And I agree. Rosa is a beast. And Rosa was putting hands on her and she was countering and then backing up Rosa and then following her. And she attempted takedowns. She didn't get them, but she tried and she kept trying. So she was like committed to her game plan. I'm going to strike with her when we're striking. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going for takedowns. that was a very competitive fight. I think it ends up a
Great
split
fight.
decision. I thought it was a clear 29-28 for Rosa. I think it's arguable that it could have even been a 30-27. However, every minute, every round was competitive. And that to me was very impressive. Then in her next fight, Molly McCann's not a slouch. You know, she's not the world's greatest fighter, but she's not a complete, can either. She's not a pushover. She has skills in all the positions. And so obviously she's better on the feet. Procopio uses some intelligence. Okay, I'm going to put her on the ground. Gets in a bad situation. Gets herself back out of a bad situation. I'd like to see that. I liked, in addition, she was working from top. She wasn't just getting to top position. She was working from top position. I think that the cleaner, better grappling is going to be on the Procopio side, in my opinion. I think that Casey O'Neill has tools in the grappling. I think she's athletic. I think she can close a gap with some speed and quickness. I think she shoots from far outside. I think she's a little bit predictable and readable in her takedown attempts. I think that Procopio is the much better striker. If you look back to the amateur record for I'm blanking on her name now. Jeez Louise. My goodness. Procopio's opponent. Why am I blanking on her name?
On the amateur scene?
Oh, O'Neill. That's a no, I literally just could not. I could not think of O'Neill's name. That was my problem. But O'Neill, I look back at her amateur record. She got knocked out in the first round twice as an amateur, which I thought was a little bit concerning. And I think we've seen she reacts poorly to shots on the feet. She's not the cleanest striker. She feels very uncomfortable. And I think her takedown attempts may be forced out of her as a result. So I think that Procopio's live for a submission in this spot. I think that Procopio is live for a knockout in this spot. And I think that Procopio could win the decision in this fight. I think we've seen evidence that Casey O'Neill can slow down as the fight goes on. I think in addition to that, her level of competition has not been very impressive to me. As best I understand, her father owned the organization that she was fighting in, Eternal MMA, or had like some kind of ownership stake in it. So, she basically was, brought up slowly and against competition she could beat and girls that she could pretty easily out wrestle. I think Procopio is a whole different ballgame. I think that she's a pretty, she's not going to be a huge 125er. I think she's appropriately sized at 125, whereas she was undersized against Rosa at 135. And so undersized at 135, she was highly competitive with somebody I think has a future at bantamweight. So I think that the more developed prospect today is Procopio. And I think that O'Neill has upside down the road. She's young. She's green as all heck. I think Procopio is just a little more seasoned, been there, done that, had a hard fight already in the UFC. And I think on top of that, I think she's got plus level skills in both positions, whereas Casey O'Neill is going to be pretty insistent on grappling in order to win this fight. And I think that as far as I know, Procopio is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt from Nova União. Serious enough black belt to me.
Never heard of her. Yeah.
So I think that
União black belt, I think.
I'm down to ride with her. 5.4 units. I went early this week, minus 135. I think it's approaching minus 160 now. So glad I got a little bit of CLV. Now let's just hope I can get one of these damn bets across the board for me. Man.
Yeah, I think looking at the props in that fight is a good idea too. If you're gonna take a side, I do kind of like the under. I think you're right. Like Procopio is a black belt. O'Neill's gonna go for it. They're both gonna be. It's gonna be a very scrambly fight in my opinion. I don't think it plays out a ton on the feet because even Procopio, like even though she has the striking advantage, I think she's gonna try to wrestle. So
under 2.5 is plus 215.
That's what I was saying. I was like, dude, I might have to take that.
Yep. I think I'm gonna have a small play on that.
This screams like armbar from guard, random shit like that going on. And like I said, I think like the ground and pound finish is live for O'Neill too. So I like that under. I like that under. I don't feel too strongly about a side. I agree with you 100%. I think Procopio is just the cleaner fighter, especially when they're grappling. But that athleticism kind of sways me a little bit towards the O'Neal side. Just I think it matters a little bit more for women. So we'll see. But
I hear you.
No, that's a good way to start off the night, bro.
Let's see, man. I'm either going to be starting off with a bang and with some momentum, or I'm going to be starting off like, Davey Grant, you're my only hope.
Bro,
so we'll see how it plays, man. Now, if you don't mind, I was going to do a quick run through where we just drop a pick for each fight on the way out. Is that cool with you?
Let's do it.
All right, let's rock and roll. First fight of the night, Lara Procopio, Casey O'Neal. Who do you got?
I got O'Neal there.
All right, I'm going to go Procopio. Then we've got Joaquim Silva, Neto BJJ, against Ricky, the Gladiator Glenn. Who do you got?
I got Neto there for sure.
I am also going to ride with Neto. All right, next up, and keep in mind, I want to make this disclosure. At Liam Picks Fights on Twitter, that is the final arbiter. I am going to go back. I'm going to do a tiny bit more tape tonight, so I shore up my P's and Q's. These are my next two official predictions. My official predictions always come out before event time on my Twitter, at Liam Picks Fights. So make sure you check us out there. But based on what we know right now, based on how we're feeling, Josh Parisian, Roque Martinez, make the call.
I got Josh Parisian here.
Man, that's an effing dumpster fire and a half if I've ever seen one. I'd actually
not make a pick, but
I felt good about Josh Parisian against Parker Porter last time, given what we had seen from Parker Porter, and he absolutely crapped the bed in that spot. He said he felt the UFC jitters. Yeah, no doubt. It looked like it. So until proven otherwise, I have no interest in betting either one of those guys. Moving right along, Matthew Semmelsberger, Chaos Williams. That's a really fun fight, in my opinion. I've made a little bit of money on Chaos before. I was really disappointed when Chaos did not win that decision. I thought he did beat Michel Pereira. Full disclosure. Again, I had 2 units on it at plus 136. So I was biased, but I thought that he won that fight. I thought it was a close decision, but I thought he edged it out. So, back to the drawing board in a sense, but I think that people are, kind of out on Chaos Williams. I feel like after that, the line is closing in, pretty tremendously. What do you think about this one?
I got Chaos, dude. I think I'll go back to the well with Chaos. I've cashed with them before, and
as a dog a couple of times, right?
I think this is a good live betting spot too. But at the same time, I think Semmelsberger, like who do you fight? Like Carlton Minus, like that dude sucks. So I think
Minus and Jason Witt, who is like the easiest mark for a knockout in the UFC.
Exactly.
Right now.
So I think I can't really see him getting past Chaos's power. I think it's possible if he does, but if I'm gonna have to take a side here, I'm definitely gonna take Chaos.
I would also side Chaos, but I would probably not put money down on that one. I would look at Chaos by KO if you were going to get involved, because that's his only really reliable path. For sure. I think that he's low volume and he's a counter-based striker. I think he just hits with absolute nukes in his hands, and I do think Semmelsberger is there to be hit a decent bit of the time. He's been knocked out before. I like Chaos. I like Chaos to get the knockout, but I will also say I don't think Chaos has the greatest process-oriented game. I'm not sure that he has layers to his game. He's grappled a couple guys on the regional scene, but nobody of note. So I think without more evidence, I would probably stay off the Chaos money line unless he switches to an outright dog, in which case I will get back right on the Chaos train as I have in the past. So
what is he?
As a favorite, I think he's minus 150 or so. Let me check what the best price you can get on him right now. Chaos Williams, minus 140, best market price. Matthew Semmelsberger, plus 134. So I think that for me, it's going to be a pass right now. If it continues to close in, I would consider maybe getting in on Chaos. But I think that this is another fun fight to sit back and watch. And depending on what the under is, the under in this fight is also probably pretty interesting. It might be corrected for because Chaos is fighting, but I also think that Semmelsberger, I think Chaos has shown pretty decent durability. But I also think that when you look at Semmelsberger's game, he's got some finishing upside in his own right. I think he's a guy that at least is going to try and land his own heavy strikes and exchanges. We've seen him get a finish in the UFC, granted, with the full disclosure that it is over a guy who gets chinned a lot. But I think that's a fun fight. I think that's one of the better fights on the preliminary card. Then we got Verna Jandiroba, Kanako Murata. What do you think?
I got Murata here.
Nice.
Plus, my girl Murata.
Plus 120. Yeah. Any betting or?
I actually might bet Murata. I think I really like her takedowns. Have you watched her at all? She's got some slick takedowns.
I haven't seen a ton of her work. I know that she had the fight against Randa. I watched that fight when it happened live, and I would have picked against Randa on the principle that it was Randa. But I also think
be a good fight.
I think that I'm interested in this. I think it's going to be a fun grappling exchange. I think that what I have the benefit of as a international wrestling fan is that I just know what Japanese women's wrestling is about. It's simply the class of the world. So,
right.
And I say that, as a proud American who thinks that we're, the second best in the world in women's wrestling.
Her Marcos fight, she was landing those inside trips, all sorts of types of takedowns you don't see from other chicks. So
non-traditional.
I was very impressed. I think Jandiroba was very dangerous, obviously. Great jiu-jitsu. It's going to be an awesome fight, but I would take whoever the dog was here. And I think in Murata's plus 120, I think I'm interested in that, honestly.
That makes sense to me, man. I think I got to watch a little bit more Murata tape before I make a final call there. But I think that Murata probably has more long-term upside. I think Jandiroba is starting to get a little bit up there in terms of age.
Right.
Mid-30s, 33 years old, 6-year age gap. But also, how much does that mean exactly? I think that she has fought the higher level of competition. I'm going to go ahead and say Jandiroba is my pick by submission. However, I'm going to say that's one of the ones that I would check my Twitter.
Dude, check it out. Yeah.
Before
I think
that one becomes official. Because I think I do like her wrestling upside, but I also hate when somebody is reliant on wrestling against somebody who has grappling upside. I think that if this is a striking-based affair, it's very hard to say who would win because I think they're both pretty low level there.
Right.
I think it's going to play out on the ground, but if it doesn't, I would be kind of pissed if I had action on it. So I'm gonna reevaluate, take a look at their skills, and maybe watch a little bit of Murata's regional tape as well. Because Randa Marcos, I feel like is kind of a hard measuring stick. Granted, she's a BJJ brown belt, so an impressive win to get in a grappling based capacity. But a lot of people have, and Randa shows terrible fight IQ almost every fight. So I would want to see more from Murata before I made a final call there. All right, next up. I know who you got in this one. Alexa Kamer, Nick Negumereanu.
Kamer, I'm completely trusting that Strong Side has done your boy well. So, I think for me, this is more of a fade on Negro, however you say his name.
Negumereanu.
So yeah, I got Kamer here. ITV. Nice. This is gonna be one for him to come out and show that he's improved a lot. I think.
I'm gonna hesitantly say that my pick is Kamer. I am going to hesitantly say that I am eyeing Negumereanu at plus 205 for a half unit stab because I feel like Alexa Kamer might deserve an auto fade, but we're going to go back and double check. I just was so put off by that William Knight fight and his lack of urgency and activity
Willie
from his
Knight.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. All right. We got Lima Brown. You make the call. What do you got?
I got Lima.
You
know me, fading.
We'll make it 2 for 2 there. Yep.
Let's go.
We're fading Matt Brown, another great gentleman out of Columbus, Ohio. All due respect to the legend. I think that Matt Brown, his time has come in the division. I think that Diego Lima, if he is going to ever get a credible win in the UFC, it might just be over Matt Brown tomorrow night. So rooting for Matt Brown there, but I'm picking Diego Lima with some level of confidence. Think he could probably be a 2-1 favorite pretty comfortably in that spot. Next up, we've got Bruno Silva, Wellington Turman I'm on the Turman side here, man. I think that's going to be my final pick. Going to go back and watch a little bit more Bruno Silva, but didn't like the visual on the scale. Like Wellington Turman's grappling upside here. Don't get hit by a nuke and be my Jacob Malkoon, would you?
Yeah, I'm with you, bro. Terminator all day. I think
Let's
that's a
do
good spot.
I think that this might be a good rebound for him.
Yeah, 100%.
Sungwoo Choi, Julian Erosa, Juicy J. What do we think?
Ooh, I guess I'll go with Sungwoo here, just because he did me well in the last fight, got me those bucks against the wall, so I'll stick with him. I think it's gonna be a close fight, but I think I'll go with Sungwoo here.
I like it. I think I'm gonna go Erosa temporarily. I'm probably gonna go back and rewatch some more on this as well. But I think that I'm a little tempted to take the dog shot on Erosa. I gotta say, the gambling markets have been sharp, right? When they have been flipping lines, a lot of times they've been right, which is the one thing that gives me pause and concern there. But I do think that Julian Erosa has, a lot of credible experience. I think he's had just about as many losses as the other gentleman has had wins. So, it's a very experience based pick here. I think that Julian Erosa's been there, done that. And meanwhile, you got Choi on the other side, who's kind of underperformed in some ways as a prospect, lost to Evloev. I kind of thought that he lost that third round against Alal and was starting to fall apart a little bit in that fight, despite his early success and his improvements. So I think I'm going to go ahead and ultimately side with Julian Erosa, but that one's a little tentative. I think that should be a pick'em type fight.
Yep, same.
Cool. Then we've got Davy Grant, dangerous Davy Grant, Marlon Chito Vera. I got
Marlon here. I got Marlon.
You know who I got? Although I should say, I really do, in all honesty, favor Marlon Vera to win the fight. But again, I think that minus 125, minus 150, maybe minus 175. That's the outside of Marlon's range. I think that Davy Grant plus 205, for me, that's a good spot. Plus 185, the value's probably just about sapped out of it. So that would be my take on it. But I do think Davy Grant, I would say he's got to press his advantages in this fight. And his advantages include being a crazy wild bastard and matching Marlon Vera on that level. One of the few guys that is just as crazy. I think Davy Grant might just have one more crazy upset in him. And Marlon Vera, hard to know where his confidence is at. His career's kind of, a little bit shaky. He's had a couple ups and downs now as a prospect, whereas Davy Grant's been on the sidelines and, he's just riding this wave of momentum into a big opportunity where, again, he's a huge underdog and he has an opportunity to shock the world. I think he might just do it one last time. Davy Grant, baby. Moving on, co-main event, Alexei Olenek, the boa constrictor, Sergey Spivak, the heavyweight prospect killer. Who do you got?
I got Sergey. Let's go.
Big Sergey, the polar bear,
man. Yeah, yep. What a nickname, right? The polar bear. I remember.
I gotta go with Sergey too, man.
Yeah, I think when he first came to the UFC, people he was the butt of all the jokes, and then I remember I think it was it might have been against Tuivasa, but I was in an Uber talking to my Uber about UFC, and we were talking about betting and shit. And he told me that his pick of the night was Spivak, and I just kind of laughed at him. And then he tapped out Tuivasa, and then I was like, all right, I gotta
call that Uber.
I gotta find that dude. We gotta chill more often. But yeah,
where's his BetMMA.tips, bro? I gotta follow
exactly. He probably has one. So yeah, no. Ever since then, I've always been on the Sergey train. I think he's bounced back well from the start of his career, and I think this would be a good one to have on his record, Alexei Olenek. So let me get Sergey by sub too, plus 2,000.
Best of luck to you, good sir. I think that Sergey Spivak's probably live to get a late TKO in this spot, possibly a late submission. I don't hate that. Look, I think he's probably going to be spending time on top. I think the reason you stay off this from a money line perspective is because Sergey Spivak's very insistent on the grappling, and he's probably going to put himself in harm's way early, which is Oleinik's only path to victory. So I think that this could be fun while it lasts, like a lot of Oleinik fights, but I think it's probably going to end in a brutal fashion that makes him reevaluate whether he's going to do 5 or 10 more fights, like he said earlier this week. So I love Alexei Oleinik. I wish him the best, but I think it's probably an uphill battle against Sergey Spivak in the co-main event of the evening. And last fight on the card, man, Dan Ige, number 7 featherweight worldwide, according to Tapology. Chan Sung Jung, number 4 worldwide, according to Tapology. Heck of a main event. Best fight on the card by a lot. Who do you got?
I'm obviously rolling with my boy. I'm drinking 20 of these tomorrow. I don't have a bet. I don't think currently have a bet on Dan, but I'm sure by the main event I'll be a little spiced up and I'll be throwing some bucks on him. But yeah, for sure.
Nothing tracked, exactly.
Hawaiian wave, baby. Let's go. We've been trying to rack up those wins. Ray Cooper got that dub yesterday, so
I did cash untracked on my man Ray Cooper.
Bro,
didn't watch the fight, saw him at plus 149, and I said, "Thank you very much."
That was one where he opened at minus 200, and then I think he dropped to like plus 125 within like an hour, and I was so confused. So.
See, the betting market's not always sharp.
That's
always. What you got to rely on.
Not always. Just use your brain sometimes. Luckily, that was a good fight, though. But yeah, some momentum for the Hawaiian wave. We'll keep it rolling. We'll keep the wave going. And let me get Dan Ige.
I'm with you. I'm going to have to roll with Dan Ige in this spot. I think the Korean Zombies got some upside in the first 3 rounds. I think the longer the fight goes on, Dan Ige is likely to come on strong. I think that Dan Ige is the improving fighter. I think that he is likely to have more upside at this point in their careers. I think that he probably has the better recoverability at this point, probably the better durability. I think Korean Zombie has spent a lot of what he has to offer in the UFC. So we thank Zombie for the great memories. We wish him the best, but I think it's probably a tough spot for him against a durable Hawaiian warrior like Dan Ige. So without betting it, I'm going to back Dan Ige tentatively. That's my pick for the main event. Those are our picks and our bets across the card. We are, in my case, all in on Lara Procopio. We are all in on Davey Grant as a plus 205 dog. And I think that there's opportunities to make some money here if we look for some of these unders, some of these fights not to go to decision in some of these highly competitive weight classes, 170 pounds and the like. I'm going to be targeting some of those spots. If you want to see my full slate of action, it can be found at betmma.tips/Liam Heslin, or you can find it on Twitter. I will post and my final slate of predictions at Liam Picks Fights. Mr. Watershow, please tell the people where they can find you.
Find my picks at Top Kaiki, TOPKAIKI on Twitter. I'm there like all day. So hit me up whenever, slide in my DMs if you need any input on anything.
It's not just MMA, by the way, folks.
Not just MMA.
Not just MMA. He's hitting everything on the board.
I'm a degen, so I'm just trying to put my bookie on the streets, and I think we should all do the same. Let's do the same this weekend. Let's go.
It's the good guys versus the bookies every single weekend, man. I appreciate you coming on, chopping it up, and breaking it down with me. I hope that all the people have enjoyed. If you have action, drop it in the comment section below. Interested to see what you guys have for this card. It's a tricky card from a betting perspective. Don't think I'm going to have as many plays as I normally would, but I kind of like some of these short underdogs. I kind of like some of these unders in terms of the round totals. And I kind of like some of these fights doesn't go to decision at plus money. I'm going to go back, look at the field. I'm going to take the bookies to task myself as best I can.
Let's go.
And let's hope for a good weekend here betting on UFC Vegas 29. God bless, man.
God bless, brother. Good shit.
Peace. Enjoy the fights, everybody. We'll see you soon. Take care.